That's amazing, man.
And that's the best feeling a dad could have.
That's amazing. That's cool. Good for you, bro. And it
Yeah,
seems like you're just getting started.
I am. I just want to build and build and build. And,
Well, I'm going to throw this out there. If
okay.
you are watching this and you're not in insurance and you want to be, you would be a great person to call.
Well, thank you.
And if you are in insurance and you're not working with us, you'd also be a great person to call. Andrew Taylor here. Thank you for joining us. We have Shawn Simpson in with us today. Thank you for joining us. Couple things. You're getting ready to hit Hall of Fame this month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We want to learn about what you're doing. And the goal here is people watching. What ends up happening is they're able to kind of see what you've overcome, what you've gone through in the industry or in life in general, and they can apply that to their own life, and it can help them get to, whatever their goal is in life insurance. And we see this all the time. Like if somebody's watching this, it does help them.
Perfect. That's what I want to do is add value.
And it will help them. And just from talking to you for 5 minutes, I know it's going to help them based off of what you told me. So I'm excited for you to be here. To start, if you can give us a little bit about your background, where you're from, how long you've been doing insurance, and what's it been like so far?
Well, number one, thank you for inviting me down here. This is an amazing place, and I'm very grateful that you invited me down here. As far as my background, I've been in sales for over 30 years now, longer than Jamie Cheerio's been alive.
Yeah.
I started in 1996 going door to door selling steaks, chicken, and seafood. Never thought that I was going to be selling steaks, chicken, and seafood as long as I did because I was kind of an introvert in high school. I thought, maybe I'll be in this industry for 3 or 4 years. I just hated talking to people. I hated walking up to the doors. But I did it for 16 years. I ended up running offices for different companies throughout, the United States. Sold steaks, chicken, and seafood in 27 states. Then from there, I got in a bad car accident, got rear-ended by 2 cars, ended up getting whiplash. And, at that point in time, it was, what do I do? This is all I've known. This is all I know how to make money. I was on drugs and alcohol at that time, and so I figured I wasn't going to be able to find anybody to hire me. And I literally just started looking around. And the problem was I couldn't get in and out of the freezer to get my meat out of the freezer because I was in so much pain. Ended up having to have surgery. But
What
I
kind
took a
of
job.
surgery?
They took out a disc out of my neck because it was a bulging disc.
What was that recovery?
It was about 3 months.
Was it bad or not as bad as you think?
Not as bad as I thought. I thought it was going to be really bad, but it wasn't. It was.
What year is this?
This is 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011. I take that back. And so then I found a job with Sears. And a lot of people don't know this, but they, at that point in time, I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to sell windows, doors, siding, heating and air conditioning, roofing. And so I'm based out of Omaha, Nebraska, and my closest office was in Kansas City, 3 hours away. So they would set the appointments for me, and I would go run the appointments, and sometimes they were 2-3 hours away, but the appointments would last 2 to 3 hours. So I would have to do this whole long presentation in order to sell doors, windows, siding, heating, whatever it may be. So I got really good at that. But, I believe the good Lord teaches us things to put us in a position to succeed because he has something bigger and better for us to do. And I did that for about 2 years, but that taught me all the goods, the bads, the uglies about real estate, how to look at houses and say, okay, this looks ugly, but it's fine. It doesn't need to be replaced. Or this looks good. Somebody painted over it, but it does need to be replaced, right? So from there, I got a big settlement from my car accident, and my wife and I prayed about it. What can we do with this money? You know, do we put a down payment on a house? Because at the time we were renting a house, and do we buy a new car?
I mean, how big are you talking?
Settlement?
Yeah.
It wasn't very big.
Like millions, hundreds of thousands?
No, not even there. I think it was like 66,000, something like that.
Okay.
But at that time, that's pretty good money for us. You know, I was going door to door, you know, and to be honest with you, if I didn't sell anything, I wasn't bringing home the bacon for my family. There was days where I would come home and I'd say, "What's for dinner?" And my wife would say, you know, we don't have much, you know, and we're just going to have sandwiches, you know, and some days it was like, we don't have anything to eat at that time.
So you guys were paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. And it was every day, you know, we had so many bills, and to be honest with you, I couldn't stand going out selling steaks, chicken, and seafood, going door to door. And the reason why is because I did it so long. I was saying the same thing over and over and over again. And it just became so repetitious that I wasn't learning. I wasn't growing. I was high all the time. And I just wasn't doing
high
anything.
On
from
what? Like weed or like hardcore drugs?
Yeah, weed, drinking all the time. There was times where I would get done selling meat and I'd buy a fifth of Jägermeister and drink it all the way home from Lincoln, Nebraska, which is about 45 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm surprised that I didn't kill anybody. I mean, I look back now. Now I'm completely sober. 2009, I got on my knees and prayed, and that changed my life forever. I quit everything cold turkey.
So you just got on your knees, prayed, and stopped.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm dead serious. I used to chew. I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to smoke weed every single day. And sometimes I would do some hard drugs if they were there. But one day I got on my knees and I prayed, and my life changed forever.
How old were your kids at this time?
So I have so my oldest daughter, I think, was, let's see, she's 30 now, so she would have been like 17, 18. My middle daughter, who is disabled, she was 4, I think. And then my youngest son wasn't even born yet. And I believe he is one of the reasons, he's a blessing to what I chose to do in my life. Because after my middle daughter was born, we tried to have another child. We prayed about it because she's fully disabled. She was born without a brain. And so we thought, you know, is this going to happen again if we have another child? Well, we prayed about it and we said, you know, if it does, then, you know, we'll take care of that child just like we take care of Alex. And so we decided to have another child, but we couldn't have another child for a long time, like 6 years. And so we decided, okay, this is our fate. Heavenly Father doesn't want us to have another child. And we sold all of the stroller, sold all of Alex's stuff because we were going to keep it because we were going to have another child. A week later, she got pregnant. And
wow.
Then she ended up having a miscarriage. So we thought, okay, is this really the way it's supposed to be? And doctor said, keep trying. You know, it's God's way of preparing the body. She was 42 at the time.
Wow.
And she got pregnant again, and my son, healthy as can be.
What's your boy's name?
SJ.
SJ.
Yeah, Shawn Jr.
Shawn Jr. Cool, man. What? Okay, so
he was actually up on stage last year for convention. Shawn Mike kept inviting him up to shoot the cannon off. He loved it. It was like his best day.
And how old is he now?
He's now 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. What a story. So you're going through all this stuff. You decide to overcome drugs and alcohol. What was the reason you really wanted to stop? And I'm just asking because there's a lot of people that I talk to that are going through something similar like that. Yeah. Like, what was the tipping point for you?
Great question. I was at a point in my life where I was either going to take my own life
Ugh.
or I was going to die anyways, because I was having chest pains and I just felt like there's no purpose for me on this earth anymore. And so that's when I got down on my knees and I prayed, and I felt like it was going to be my last prayer. And I prayed for about 45 minutes. And I don't remember exact words that I prayed, but I do remember this. One of the questions that I had was, would you please take away these cravings from me so that I can quit and change my life? And if you do, I will follow you wherever you want me to go. And I put my hand on this Bible today. That's what he did. He took away all the cravings.
Crazy.
It was, and the reason why is because I prayed with real intent. And I quit. I mean, I had memories of it. I had dreams of it because I did it for so long. At that time, it was half of my life. I was 34 at the time when I quit. So I started when I was 17. Half my life, I was on drugs and alcohol addicted. And after that, I never had any cravings. I had memories, but I never had any cravings.
Wow.
And that's what allowed me to quit everything cold turkey.
Crazy. And now you can help other people, it seems like, from just talking to you.
Yeah. And I tell people that all the time that they can quit cold turkey, and it's hard for people to believe. But I know people can because I've done it, you know.
That's amazing. How did your life change when you, after that point? Did you have more energy? Did you have more focus? Did your chest pains go away?
My chest pains went away. I had more energy. I had more clarity in my mind. My body and my mind was still addicted to it, right? Because I had been doing it for so long. So it took some time for me to get used to, right? But if you think about it, when you're first starting to smoke or do whatever you're going to do, your drug of choice, your body is getting used to that new feeling. So my body had to get used to not having that feeling anymore. My brain had to get used to it. But I had the higher power of the Lord behind my back, and that's what I relied on, and that's what really, really changed my life. And then 2 years later, I don't normally share this with everybody, but I'm going to put it out there. So in my religion, we have temples, and I went to the temple for the first time after I joined the church, and SJ hadn't been born yet, and I remember the guy I was with. He said, "This is the closest you're going to get to God on earth. I'm going to leave you here with him in this room that we were in." And I remember praying to have a baby boy so that I could, carry on the name of my family, because my other two are girls. And I prayed that he would be healthy. And I just threw in the prayer, Andrew, that if he could have blonde hair and blue eyes, I would know it come from you. And you would not believe he was born with blonde hair and blue eyes.
That's amazing, dude.
Well, what's even more amazing is my dad had black hair. I don't look like it, but I have dark brown hair. My wife is Mexican. They all have brown hair or black hair. And he was born with blonde hair and blue eyes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. So, yeah, I'm sure he's proud of you, what you're doing. It seems like it, him being at the conference and watching what you're doing, helping people.
He had
which is cool to see, man. Like, from your story, like, from turning around from that point at 34 to now is amazing.
He knows my story, but he never lived with me during that story.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter has, and we still have issues to work out because I'm a totally different person than what I am now. But I didn't realize how proud of
You, he is.
sorry. I didn't realize how proud of me he is until he had a conversation with Pastor Matthews. And I didn't know he had the conversation with Pastor Matthews. Shawn Mike had invited him behind the stage. And Pastor Matthews was there. And he sat there and talked to him for about 10 minutes. And he asked him if he was proud of me. And he said, yeah.
That's amazing, man.
And that's the best feeling a dad could have.
That's amazing. That's cool. Good for you, bro. And it seems like you're just getting started.
I am. I just want to build and build and build. And
well, I'm going to throw this out there. If you are watching this and you're not in insurance and you want to be, you would be a great person to call.
Well, thank you.
And if you are in insurance and you're not working with us, you'd also be a great person to call.
Yes.
Because I would work with you in a second.
Thank you, Andrew.
And I know you're going to do some big things coming here soon. So we got a lot to talk about. And I love what you just talked about, because how hard is it to be successful if you have all that stuff going on in your life? Pretty hard, right?
It's very hard. But it's a mindset. I also have support. When I came out of real estate and I got into the insurance business, I'm taking on a whole new career. And so I knew that I had a lot of learning to do because I didn't know much about life insurance, right? I knew one of the guys that, taught me about the gospel, he said, hey, you should get life insurance. And this is before I even heard of a Family First Life. And I had some guy from Mutual of Omaha come over and he sold me a term policy, right? And that's really all I knew about life insurance. Term is for a short amount of time. Whole life covers you for your whole life, right? But I didn't know all the ins and outs about it. So I knew I was going to have to go through all of that. And I have ADHD, and reading is very difficult for me. And I knew I was going to have to go through this course. I knew it was going to take time to build up. And if I was going to do that, I wasn't going to see my family as much as I wanted to. So I literally sat down with my son, because my oldest daughter's out of the house by this time. I sat down with my son and my wife, and I talked to them about it, and I told them what I wanted to do. And I asked them if that was okay and if they were on board with me. And they said, yeah, let's do it, Dad. I told them my vision, where I wanted to go, passive income, that kind of thing. And, they were on board.
That's amazing, dude. All right. So if somebody's just getting started, you're a 3-time Hall of Fame producer. If somebody's just getting started, what advice do you have for them? Like, what should they start on? What should their schedule be? What should they expect? Because I think it took me 6 months to figure this out. And on my 6th month, I sold 16 policies or 17 policies, and 15 of them canceled. So I was not very good.
Wow.
But I figured out how to actually close, but I was closing wrong. I was telling people, you could cancel if you don't want it. You have 30 days, this, that. And they would end up canceling. So for someone new, what would be good expectations? What would be good activity? What would be good lead flow? What advice would you give for them?
Okay, let me kind of unpack that. That's a whole lot of questions all in one. What I like to preach to my agents is the calendar, your schedule, right? Because I believe your schedule is literally the holy grail of what you want to design for the future, right? If you plan, because we're all creators on this earth, right? And so you can create the future that you want by planning it. Is it always peaches and cream? No. You got your ups and downs that you're going to have to go through. everything is a roller coaster. But if you think of a roller coaster always starts with the biggest hill. And you go up that big hill for a long period of time, really, really slow. In fact, it's so slow that clicking makes you a little bit nervous going up the roller coaster, right? And then once you get up to the top, it's a long drop, right? And a lot of times what people do when they get into this industry is they're struggling to get up to that. And they hear that clicking and they're like, is that really going to work for me? You know, they have doubts in the back of their mind, but they still keep striving, right? And they still keep pushing to get up that hill. And then they get to a point where now they sold a couple of policies and they lay back and they're like, oh, I got this. And now they're dropping down that hill. Well, that's a big drop because now you're not staying consistent. You're just dropping. And then now they figure out that, oh, it's not as easy as I really thought. I thought I had it figured out. And so they start going back up the hill again. But it's a smaller hill, just like on a roller coaster, right? Because the next hill is always smaller. It may be a little bit of a loop. It's going to throw them off a little bit, right? And then as you keep going on the roller coaster, if you notice the hills kind of even out, and by the time you get towards the end of the roller coaster, it's real flat, right? Because now you're consistent, right? It's always hard up front, it's messy in the middle, and then it's beautiful in the end, right? But back to the schedule part of it. That is the most important part of it, scheduling, because most people are coming from a 9-to-5 job. Not most people, but a lot of people are. And they already know their schedule. So they're not really putting things on their schedule that they have to do. They're not used to working their schedule. They're just putting their personal stuff on there because their work is already on there. They're just going, they know they have to show up at 9. They leave at 5 or whatever their schedule may be. And then they also have a boss. But when you get into this type of a business, this type of a career, you have to be that boss to tell you, get your butt up in the morning, do your morning activities to get you ready for the day, and then schedule your day. But I teach my agents to schedule out 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then every week, go back and look at those next 2 weeks again. And that next week should already be scheduled in there. But if something changes, they can go in there and tweak it. And then here's the biggest part. Here's where most agents fail. They don't do what they say they're going to do. They have a schedule laid out of when they're going to work. Well, Friday rolls around, and all of a sudden it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and their buddy they haven't seen in like 3 months calls them up. Hey, do you want to go to lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Right? Well, they just told themselves they're going to work until 3 o'clock, take a break, and then go back to work from 4 to 9. Well, buddy called, and now they just went off their word.
Yeah.
But if we can get them to do what they say they're going to do, build integrity for themselves, it's going to make their life a lot easier because now they're creating good habits. And they're teaching their family and their kids all of the same thing.
So number one thing you're saying, stick to your schedule.
Yes.
And I used to have this thing where I would say, okay, would you fire yourself today or would you hire yourself if you were your own boss?
I love that.
And then what would you say? What's your answer?
For myself?
Yeah.
Oh, I would keep myself.
Would you give yourself a raise?
Yeah.
Would you pay yourself $1 million salary?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like when you start thinking about this, it's like I'm operating on that level. But like what's interesting you say that because last night my 2-year-old got strep throat for the second time from preschool in like a few weeks. So my kids were up all night. My 4-year-old boy was laying on me and my alarm was going off. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to wait like 30 more minutes. and then I'm like, okay, he's still laying on me. And I'm just like, it's just like this really sweet moment. So I'm just soaking it up.
Yeah.
But technically, if I had a job, I would have to be to work, and I would not be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Now, thankfully, I've done this a long time where I have a little bit of leeway now. But early on, you have to treat it like this is your job or you will be fired.
Yep.
There was a book that really helped me early on. It's called The One Thing.
The One Thing.
And it's a
Gary Keller.
And I think he's in real estate. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
He owns Keller Williams.
So beast.
Yeah.
But there's this chapter in there where he's like, you have to build a bunker of where you're going to work. And it's literally like you have to bunker yourself in, because in 4 hours, focused work, you can do more than most people do in 8 hours or even 12 hours or 16 hours because they're not focused. They're all over the place.
Yes.
So if you could do that, then you could save so much time and free up more time if you're just focusing on the one thing that's important. So what is the one thing that would be important, would you say, if somebody's new?
If you're brand new, what is the one thing that is important? It's not selling. It's not dialing leads. It is taking massive, massive imperfect action. Now, why do I say it's not dialing leads? That is a money-making activity, right? But you have a lot to learn. I mean, I tell my agents, it's like drinking water from a fire hose, right? Your first 90 days, sometimes your first 6 months. And so you have a lot to learn, not just from taking the course and taking the test. It even comes even more after that. It's like getting a black belt in karate. All your learning comes after you get a black belt in karate, right? And so you're still learning, but you also do have to take action. And by taking action, that's where you're dialing. And then that's where you're setting appointments. You're relying on your team, your upline, your manager to help you through it. But you got to get on as many training calls as you can. I do a role play call 3 days a week with my team, and it's a la carte. I tell them, look, you don't want to show up, you don't have to, but I guarantee you, if you're not, helping 20 families a month, at least minimum, you should definitely be on that call so you can get better. Because you can sell life insurance. Anybody could sell life insurance, right? And you can't really say the wrong thing to the right person, but
if you have the right intention.
If you have the right intention, right? And you can't say the right thing to the wrong person, right? But you can tweak little sayings and little word tracks to get better and better and better. And that's what's going to help you get more families helped.
Yeah, that's huge. All right, back to your morning routine. What is your morning routine?
I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I used to wake up at 5, but with my disabled daughter, I have to help put her to bed. And so that's usually later in the evening. So I still, at minimum, I need about 7 hours of sleep. So I get up at 6 and I wake my son up. We eat breakfast. We read scriptures for about a half an hour. I take him to school. I go to the gym. While I'm at the gym working on my body physically to stay in shape, I'm also working on my mind to stay in shape that way as well. Doing some type of personal development, whether it's listening to YouTube videos from podcasts like yourself, from Grady, whatever, or listening to a podcast that's going to help me with my faith or help me become a better parent, help me become a better father. I'm listening to something that is going to grow my brain to give me that aha thought. That's what I want every day. And that's what I feed upon so that I can grow and learn. And then once I do that, once I get done, then I come home, take a shower, and I'm ready for my day. I got all the hard stuff out of the way within the first couple hours out of the day.
What do you?
I've already accomplished.
Like how much time do you spend reading scripture with your son?
Half an hour.
And you just pick? Is it like app or something you use? Is it?
Yep.
Random?
Sometimes we read scriptures. In our religion, we have what we call general conference twice a year. And that's videoed. And usually, our leaders will get up and give a 10-minute, 15-minute talk. And so, we either watch that or we read scripture or we do a combination of both.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the early morning. We had Carrie Glass in here last week, and he actually just texted me, and let me tell you guys this. So they do this accountability thing where every day they text each other before 8 a.m.
Who's they?
Their team.
Okay.
Now, there's only a few of them that have actually done this and not dropped out. But for the last few years, they text each other every day after a check mark, and then it has to be before 8 a.m. So today he texted me. They got to listen to a podcast before 8 a.m. They do a cold plunge before 8 a.m., a workout, sauna, stretch, and they send 30 DMs introducing Family First Life to other salespeople before 8 a.m. And they send each other this text every day for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and he sent it to me today, and I'm like, oh, I think he's challenging me now.
I love that, though.
But dude, those things help, man.
Accountability is really what does it.
Okay, so there's something I've been noticing with new agents, and I did this myself. I didn't want to join any type of Zoom calls, and I didn't want to call in front of people. I just wanted to isolate myself and do it by myself. And I've tried to think of why. And the only reason is I'm worried about what people think if I'm bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the worst thing I could possibly do. It'd be like not showing up to your call where you're role playing because I'm worried about what you'll think or other people will think because I'm bad. What advice do you have to people that are kind of isolating themselves and they're not participating with other people to get better?
I would say they're selfish.
I love that.
I'm going to just put it out there. I mean, it's true. When you're worried about what other people think of you, you're being selfish.
It's so good.
You know what I mean? Because that means that you really, really care so much about yourself that you are so worried about what other people are going to think about you. Whereas if you were to just talk a little bit, even if you're new, there's so many times where I hear, a new person on a Zoom that's never sold any life insurance before, and they're going through their script. I'm listening to see if I can help them out. And then I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. They just threw a phrase out there that got, that kind of intrigued me, that worked for them, that maybe they got around an objection or something like that. And I said, I'm going to use that, right? I mean, you can still learn from new people all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what somebody's going to say that's going to help you, prove the point to a client to get them to, help them protect their family.
Yeah. Now, back to schedule. When I started, I just wanted to make one sale a month to replace the grocery store, the amount of money I was making at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my logic was, if I spent 40 hours doing this, how could I not make one sale in a month? Right?
Yeah.
Even if I was the worst ever.
Yeah.
But the problem came when I wasn't truly spending 40 hours. I was cleaning my desk. I was getting ready for washing my car to get ready to go run appointments. I was doing everything except work, which Trey Honeycutt was like, dude, that's called creative avoidance. It's like you're just creating things to avoid work.
Yeah.
Right? But for somebody new, how could they track if they're truly working or they're not? Because I've had people call me. I had somebody call me before and they're like, these leads aren't working out. And I'm like, okay, how many hours did you call for? And they go look up in their ringing account and they're like, 38 minutes. And I'm like, and how many calls did you make? And it was like 50 something. And I'm like, dude, you worked for 38 minutes. And we took those leads and we called them. And because that agent was like, they don't work, and we wanted to prove to them that they do work. So we took those leads and called them, and it was about $4,800 in annual premium within like the next few days.
Wow.
That was written, you know? But what would be a good way for somebody to be accountable to their schedule? Because I agree with you, man. I think a lot of problems could be fixed regardless of how good or bad you are, just with that one thing.
Yeah. So number one, the schedule, right? I mean, put the hours that you're going to work in your schedule. I mean, if you plan on working, there's a video out there talking about the rocks and then the pebbles and then the little pebbles and then the sand.
Yeah.
Right? So you put your rocks in there first, right? What are your rocks? Your highest priority items, right? If I got to take my son to mountain biking practice, that's a rock for me. I'm blocking off that time on my schedule. That's in there no matter what. Nothing's getting around it, right? If I have doctor's appointments, you got to stay healthy. If you're not healthy, how are you going to, take care of your family, right? So those are big rocks. And then once it comes down to it, once all your rocks are in there, then you have your pebbles. And right there, the pebbles, the big pebbles, that's your finances. You got to be able to support your family. And if you can't support your family, guess what? You're going to be moving to some house down the street where you don't want to live, or you may be moving to the homeless shelter, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to pay your bills. And that is a huge priority. And then you have to define what kind of lifestyle do you really want to live? Do you want to live in a homeless shelter, or do you want to live in a medium grade house, or do you want to live a nice lifestyle that's going to provide for your family and possibly leave a legacy to your family? And then you determine how much do you really want to work to create that lifestyle, and then plug that into your calendar and make sure that you don't deviate from that. And it goes back to saying, do what you say you're going to do. If you have that in your schedule, obviously things come up, but really the only thing that should be important to change your schedule is an emergency. Your kid broke his bone at school and you got to take him to the doctor, right? Or you have a flood at a rental property or something, something like that, right? But as long as you work your schedule and you put 100% into it, you should be able to get what you want, right?
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did, 100%. But kind of. Let's say I keep my schedule, but only I know what it is.
Uh-huh.
And I don't even know if I'm following it completely or not, kind of here and there. Like, did you use anything to keep you accountable to that schedule?
Not really. I mean,
you just did.
It's my integrity, right? I have integrity for myself. I mean, was I 100% when I first started off? No, but I knew that if I were to keep the schedule, I would be better, and then, I know the part that I didn't answer. It was the part where you talked about the leads, right? I have a spreadsheet for my agents. I don't really make them track their dial time. I make them track their appointments, because really that's what's important. They can dial all day with no appointments for 12 hours. And if they're not getting appointments, something's wrong. We got to fix it. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what's really important is the appointments, because the appointments is where you make your money, and the presentations is where you get your money, right? And where you get the families helped. So I make them track their appointments, and then every once in a while I'll go ask them, how long do you dial? I mean, honestly, how many hours do you actually work to get those appointments? Because if they call me up and they say, hey, I only had like 3 appointments today, I'll say, okay, honestly, think back. How many hours did you work to get those 3 appointments? And a lot of times they'll say 3 or 4 or 5. And I'll say, I'll let them know that when I first started, even though I've been in sales for over 30 years, I still listened to my upline. And my upline at the time was a plumber. And so he didn't know anything about sales, but he was doing better than I was at the time. So why wouldn't I listen to him? So I literally dialed from 9 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night until I got my 15 appointments for the next day. And if I got done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then I'm taking the rest of the day off. I just worked until I got to my goal.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay. And I always bring that up. Like, you could do more if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you work from home?
I do, from my home office.
You work from home. You could work other time zones. Phone sales change the whole dynamic of life insurance sales. And I have like family members, I have friends that they're having like life-changing sales where it's like an extra 2 or 3 or 4K a month is life-changing for them.
Yeah.
And I have some who are like top high producers in other businesses, and they're like, dude, why didn't you tell me about this? I'm like, I told you about this for the last 15 years. You just weren't listening.
Some people are just stubborn.
Yeah. Last night I was thinking about when I first started, everybody was saying I shouldn't do this. The grocery store, all the people at the grocery store, all my family, I was going to lose my benefits at the grocery store. And I was set up to go to college. I had straight A's in high school. I was all about going to college and getting a degree. And everyone was like, do not quit the grocery store. Okay. Insurance is a scam, whatever. But then I remember like a few family members, once I started doing well, they were like, yeah, that can't be legal. Like, that just doesn't seem right. Like, it can't be legal.
What?
And I was just thinking, and then it came to the point to where everyone was like, how do we work with you?
Now they were like, okay, now we believe you. You know, I want to join you.
Yeah. I just, for some reason, I had that popped up in my head yesterday. Okay, so how much do you spend on leads every month?
On average, about $5,000 to $6,000.
Okay. And do you do a mix of old leads, new leads, Facebook leads, internet leads, direct mail? What's your mix?
It's mortgage protection and IUL, between Facebook leads and ILC leads.
Okay. And we've been working with ILC, Integrity Lead Center.
Mm-hmm.
And we have something coming out, a really, really, really affordable, high quality IUL lead, which is coming soon. But what do you use in ILC? What type of leads? Like what would be a mix you would get?
ILC, the social media IULs, and that's all there is for IULs is just the social media. So, and then
just I'll tell you, they're lowering the new on custom campaigns. They're I think next week they're lowering the price to $20 per new IUL social media lead.
For brand new leads?
For a brand new lead.
Really?
Which will be really helpful.
Yeah.
You know, just almost double your lead flow for the same cost.
I don't think there's enough leads in there.
No.
There's not enough leads. I mean, even like mortgage protection, I buy mortgage protection and, I like to buy the bronze. There's like no bronze in there.
Is this direct mail mortgage protection?
No, social media.
Social media.
There's no bronze in there. I mean, you might find 100 bronze in the whole country.
Yeah.
And they're gone in like an hour. You have to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning in order to get them, you know?
Crazy. I think that's going to change too, because they're coming up with a new affordable lead for that, which will be cool.
Okay.
But
cool.
You like the bronze lead. So why do you like the bronze? They're older. They're not brand new.
Yeah.
What do you find with them that make you like them?
They're not bugged all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you call them up and you're real with them and just talk to them, and a lot of times they're like, okay, no problem. And a lot of times I just give them a way out. And if they tell me no, I don't want it, cool, I'm moving on. I mean, they cost $1. I mean, how can you go wrong?
So
that's why everybody wants them.
Do you get bronze IUL or just bronze internet?
Mortgage protection.
Bronze mortgage protection.
Yeah. But I also like the silver too. They're $750.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the silver. They've been around for I think they're 6 months to a year old.
Yeah.
And that's how I actually cut my teeth on mortgage protection back in the day. I say back in the day, but it was only 2 years ago. But I loved those because back then that was the cheapest ones we could buy. And I mean, I would literally sell a lot of mortgage protection on those leads. I mean, just because people will buy because they're buying you, not really the product. The product's the same for the other agents that called.
Yeah.
But there was something different about me that they liked.
We did this training back in the day called Fire Your Representative. Your representative is like your ego that the face you put on to customers that's not really you, where you act like you've been doing this for 20 years, but you're really only a week in. And firing your representative is just being real. Yeah. Like, dude, sorry I'm late. My kid had a fever all night. Just being 100% real, and how much people love that. Or go, you know what?
Vulnerability.
You know what? I've had leads where I'm like, you shouldn't get this because you have your setup where you don't need it, and at your age with your health, it's super expensive. You shouldn't get it. And they're just like, what the heck? And then I end up getting other business with them for their IULs for their kids or their grandkids or whatever. But it just firing your representative, being real, and it sounds like that's what you do. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is when you bring in these agents, newer agents, and they never sold anything before, they think they have to put on a face, right? And it's that fake it till you make it mentality, right? Well, they're trying to fake it. But what they're really doing is telling that client that, there's something fishy about this and there's something not real about this. And so now in the day and age where we have scams and frauds all over the place, people can read that and they can't see your body language when you're calling over the phone.
They can feel it.
They can feel it through the tone of your voice, the words that you say. And, if you have a fake you coming out, it's funny because we do role play and new agents. They're just all of a sudden they like morphed into this other person, and I have no idea where I'm like, just be you. Let's just have a conversation here. Yeah. That's all you're doing. You're trying to help out your buddy, your neighbor. Would you talk that way to your brother, your sister, your neighbor? No. And so when I get them to finally be real, then they start selling policies.
Yeah. So when I was brand new, I was 18. Okay. And everyone would be like,
how old are you now?
35.
Oh, okay.
So I'm 17 years just doing this.
Wow.
Fresh out of the grocery store. This is all I ever did.
Wow.
And I would talk, everyone would be like, how are you selling annuities? You're 18, And I'd be like, I'm just telling them I'm new to this. I'm going to ask the company that's been around a long time. And when I would tell people that I was new, or like I've only been doing this for a month or 2 months, it wasn't a bad thing. It was a good thing. They wanted to help me get further along because I was working hard.
Yeah.
It was like an advantage I had over everybody.
People want to help other people out.
They do.
Yeah.
Like, I went to go look at the new Hummers. Have you seen those things? The EV Hummer?
The EVs, yeah.
Dude, those things are sick. But anyways, I like the kid, and I'm like, I'm going to get it through this kid if I get one because I want to help this kid out.
He was real humble and hungry.
Yeah, he's young, and he's just out there working.
Yeah.
So be yourself is what we're trying to say.